chief marketing officer controls just the elements of the marketing, advertising, and promotion spend, which doesn't touch the call center, doesn't touch the interactive voice response, usually doesn't touch the sales force, doesn't touch product design, and doesn't touch anything that's actually happening.
We have to reach a point where marketing is on the board of the company as much as the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, is on the board. Marketing's voice has been small in relation to the other chief players in the company, and I'd like to see it enhanced, which is now happening with the appointment of CMOs, Chief Marketing Officers.
That said, I think the toughest question then going forward is how in the world you get a bunch of functional areas within today's large-scale business corporations to work together in new ways.
I think that it's absolutely clear that the customer will become a partner in the definition of products. And so the magic will be in incorporating those ideas rapidly into what your offering as a company is and diffusing those to the people who don't yet have it. And that may be the role of a carrier in the future, and it may set the model for how marketing goes on.
As the discipline became expanded, economies bigger, and customers wealthier, organizations entronized marketing and marketers with the dignity of high office, leaving all the other functions and their key players under the apparent dominion of this new authority. From them on, just as it happened with Cain and Abel competing for God's approval, an unnecessary duality arose inside companies. A battle between marketing and sales, heart and soul of the same process, started. A silo war so harsh and noisy that it couldn't be ignored.
Well, I believe that we first thought that marketing is going to be handled as an adjunct to a sales department to help the salespeople get orders, so that the salespeople wouldn't have to do their own marketing research, wouldn't have to do their own search for leads, wouldn't have to write ads.
But today, sales and marketing usually talk different languages. They believe different things are important. They're often in conflict. And the CEO says, well, when I talk to my chief marketing officer, he's telling me this or this. And when I talk to my head of sales, she's telling me something different.
Oh, it's because the marketing people charge too much that I couldn't sell the product. Or the marketing people say, the salespeople aren't listening to our value proposition and they're doing anything to get a customer.
I think agencies and marketing departments are still think they're in the army. It's still hierarchical, it's still command and control, it's still bureaucratic. It's not flat enough, it's not fast enough, it's not flexible enough.
But you can't just leave it to marketing. Marketing isn't close enough to individual customers to know. So more and more, sales and marketing have to work together to decide which opportunities are the winners.
Unless marketing and sales people start mingling more and aligning themselves more and reaching a point where neither blames the other if sales fall, which is an old fact, finger pointing.
We can't have sales and marketing working in a silo. So we must have revenue generating processes where marketing and sales work together.
So certainly one of the other contributing factors to the idea that chief marketing officers only have a year or two in their jobs before they're summarily shown the door has to do with the fact that on one hand they're under pressure to show a return on investment for that marketing spend. And to Kotler's point, much of it defies any kind of rigorous measurement whatsoever.
This isn't working. And so a number of companies, for example FedEx or Campbell's Soup or Coca-Cola Enterprises, have recently introduced the idea of a chief revenue officer who controls both sales and marketing. And that way you can be more flexible about using sales and marketing resources.
Will it carry them forever? I don't know. Nothing lasts forever. But on the other hand, they have the ability to gather good people. They have the ability to try new ideas, and they have a good firm base on which to grow.
I think that you really have to kind of look at your workforce now and say that they're not all the same. That each probably 10-year generation now has a separate set of interests that even may change. And you're going to have to take it into account. The workforce now is very varied in its goals and its cultures, and you have to understand that as an employer.
With this fight for power taking place, and each and everyone doing marketing, from bosses to partners, from governments to nonprofits, from customers to suppliers, no doubt there is a plurality with more than one sense out there, a flock with no shepherd. Now, are companies ready to willingly embrace this new reality? Or will they soon yearn for that lost paradise of absolute control over the realm of brands, markets, corporate image they used to have? To date, the written account of marketing and its descendants, one-to-one, guerrilla, viral, mobile, convergence, gathers enough evidence to think that marketing is not simply about command of the media and control of the message. No way. Somewhat, the new marketplace, whether you have faith in it or not, wipes off the narcissistic perspective of business and wipes out those underpinnings that used to make it work as the perfect alibi.
Well, I think what I really noticed is that the era of megatrends is over, and that it's no longer just about a few big trends that are out there, but that really what's happening is that people are forming smaller and smaller groups, oftentimes around 1%, and that these groups can be extremely powerful in the marketplace.
So brands became commodified. They lost confidence, they lost relevance, and they lost their premium.
I would say that any of those strong brands could stop advertising tomorrow and continue strong for a year, 2 or 3 before the lack of their presence in our mindset will start affecting them.
And ultimately, therefore, what these corporate assets called brand equity are really worth. That's the place where it's not just a story of consumer control of media, it's about consumers creating a conversation that companies can hope to influence, but they can no longer shape, command, or control. And that shift in power or control over brands.
And marketing departments need to rethink now, not about command and control, not about directing, not about selling by yelling, but about being empathetic, engaging. Frankly, you've got to give up control now of your brands and become more empathetic with consumers. Your job in marketing is to connect the brand, the idea, with the feelings of a customer.
You have to understand some of the latest techniques of micro-targeting. You have to understand how to deliver targeted messages to targeted communities. You have to just not expect products to sell themselves on the basis of innovation, because it's a far more competitive marketplace out there than it ever was.
It's what's happening in our culture and our economy as we're shifting from a hit-driven, blockbuster market to one epitomized by the internet with a million niches.
But now, it's no longer true that your biggest customer is your most profitable. It may be in the middle market your most profitable customers lie. And as we begin to find we haven't enough resources and we have to put them where they have the most impact.
We've never seen an economy before where all the input costs go down over time. They get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper until on a kind of a marginal cost basis they become zero.
I think even in those mass societies that were intended for everyone to be the same, to dress the same, for there not to be differences. As soon as the rules open up a little bit, vast differences emerge, microtrends start to flourish.
This ability to have complete freedom over what you charge for, what you don't charge for, the ability to have non-monetary economies, you know, like the blogosphere, open source. All these things are only possible in a digital economy. The new businesses, the new form of free is the one that's basically entirely the digital realm.
So, the still life of traditional marketing burst open, and more powerful consumers, with technology, both as minister and usherer, went in twos and twos onto social networks, wikis, blogs, for convenience and shelter from the flood, from the bombardment of brands, thus creating, half willingly, half reluctant, a new breed in the species of marketers.
Holy cow. I mean, you know, if they're right, I'm so lucky. I'm in the right place at the right time. I happen to be present and understand the core enabling technology of the 21st century.
One went through pre-Facebook, one went through after Facebook, one went through pre-cell phone, one went through after cell phone, one went through before MySpace or Twitter or SMS, and another went through after.
Still completely convinced that you know, digital technology is the most powerful force of our time.
In many ways, it is not a matter of technology now. So I don't know that the right thing to do is to think about what the next technology is. Now it's a matter of society.
In fact, there's a cycle now between seeing something on TV or reading it in the paper, responding online, and then let's say 1 million people respond, and then they report 1 million people responded, and then another 1 million people respond. And this is changing the way that we're able to market. It is not true that it's all about the new digital marketplace by itself. It's all about, I think, the unity of these two places and their ability to reach people and to let people act and move.
But you might say that we've seen a new equilibrium established, something we think of as marketing 2.0, that is about a kind of balance between supply and demand.
The most important change is information. It used to be that customers didn't know what choices they had. Well, now most customers have become very sophisticated. They can find on the internet everything they need to know about products and alternatives. And so in the past they may have heard of your product and perhaps a little bit about one competitor. Today they know about every competitor.
What puzzles me is this phenomena of Facebook and MySpace and other what we call social networks. How do you capitalize on that? Because the people who are on these social networks did not want advertising. They wanted to communicate with their friends.
And that's what micro-targeting is all about, making communications ultimately more efficient.
Marketing 2.0 has had to wrestle with the fact that companies and brands are sharing power with consumers. And in the retail channel, it's the best illustration of all, in that anyone close to the consumer has more power than anyone else far away.
At the moment, most brands are trying to control them and are being manipulative. That's got to change, because the consumer's boss, not the brand. What brands have got to learn is not to be frightened of the bloggers, not to be frightened of the community sites, but to welcome them and to listen to them and to work with them.
Marketing has lived over 100 years and spread widely in its own likeness, in his own image. Now, as the barriers between organizations and customers crumble, as new social technologies facilitate instant exchanges among groups of people, we may feel tempted to believe that we have left it behind the door, neatly encased in a job description, in an advertising agency, a promotion firm, a packaging design.